it was one of the best games I've been to because sort of spending some time with Chris, it was brilliant.
Hey party people, over 12 here, and welcome to the 13th Suburban Gooner podcast. Unlucky for some, but lucky for us because we've got at block_5_Gooner. Got it, I done it, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good. And we've got Chris and Ben as usual. How you doing, guys?
All good.
I didn't think you were there then.
Say something, Chris.
Oh God, the silence.
How polite of you both. You didn't want to talk over each other.
Yeah.
So I thought we'll start off straight away. Obviously, we're fresh off the FA Cup draw, which we got a nice and easy one at home to Liverpool. And as we were chatting just before we got started on the podcast, I don't think you realise, Chris, that Liverpool will be the 7th because it's home draw and comes before the Bayern Munich game. It will be the 7th credit on our season ticket. And we've got Michael here today who's done some blogs on this and spoke about this. So do you want to have a quick word about that, Michael, about the categories and stuff?
Yeah, can do. It's all very up in the air, and it's actually quite complicated, unfortunately. But yes, we've obviously for those that have season tickets, like myself and for Chris. Do you have season tickets as well, Steve?
Yes.
You do. Okay, cool. So yeah, we get given, or we pay for 7 tickets up in advance, or seven games up in advance. And way back when, I suppose we're going back now a good couple of years, it used to be really, really easy to work out. You had your category A games, which there was 5. You had your category B games, which were the remaining ones, and then the 7 cup games, which are just the Champions League and the FA Cup. They all equated to category B prices, so that was £35, and you can quite easily work that out. Now, obviously, we've got the category C games, and the whole thing's all up in the air, and it's not easy to work out at all. So this year we've obviously we played a qualifier in the Champions League. We've got the 3 group games. Then we played Coventry, or Spurs, then Coventry. And we've got Bayern Munich, so that's up to now 8 games. I think I've got that right. So that means that Liverpool will actually be our 7th game now, and the 8th game, which moves it across, will be the Bayern Munich. So it's all kind of, it's not easily thought out, unfortunately, in my point of view. I was of the opinion that it should be done on the game progression, because Bayern Munich's been out since before Coventry. I think it was after the Spurs game, if memory recalls. And now it just seems that the Bayern Munich game just seems to be pushing further and further back. And it looks like the case will be that the season ticket holders, we will now have to pay for it, albeit on next year's renewal. So yeah, the situation could have been that we could have had a home tie against a lower division team or someone of lesser ability or skill, and it could have been a category B or even a category C game like the Coventry game. So it just seems to be that the Arsenal seem to be making it up as they go along, and that's where a lot of the confusion lies. So yeah, Bayern Munich. The tickets have already come out for Bayern Munich, I believe, like the Silvers and Red members. But for season ticket holders, it's now looks like, and it's not been officially made, it looks like it'll be moved across to the 7th game. Sorry, the 8th game, obviously, with Liverpool, but now being the 7th.
Do you know what? Here's an idea, because the way that I work out my season ticket is I obviously pay the upfront fee, whatever it is, it's about £1,000, and it works out roughly for each game at just over 40 quid. So what I tend to do, if ever I've got a spare next to me, I tend to just say whatever the game is, whether it's Man United, whether it's Cardiff or whoever, if you want the ticket next to me, it's 40 quid. Why shouldn't the club give you an option at the beginning of the year to say, if you want to purchase it in a credit system, so if you want to purchase 10 credits, i.e. one game is 1 credit in terms of cup matches, then you can pay more for your season ticket, but the average price is works out as whatever it is, 40 quid or whatever it is. So in that way, it completely negates the whole working out the category system. And if you're somebody that says, all right, well, I'll purchase 10 cup credits, and if we only use 7 or 8 of them, then you get 2 that are carried over or something. That would make sense to me. What do you think, Steve?
I think it's interesting. The Black Scarf movement, one of the things that they're calling for is a season ticket light, isn't it? Where you can just buy league season ticket, and then you can purchase the cup games as you go, kind of choose to do them as and when you wish. So your season ticket would include all of the league games, and then the cup games, I suppose, I imagine would be a bit like the Carling Cup games where you'd get priority on your seat. I actually quite like that idea, I think.
Yeah, because with the Champions League games, especially the group stage games, unfortunately a lot of people don't particularly like them. You know, I don't mind going to them. Some of them are quite good, decent teams you get, but you do get some really dodgy teams in those group stages, especially in years gone by. We certainly have had some really weak competition, but you can't sell those tickets. Ticket exchange doesn't work in the eyes of the club. Obviously, you can pass on tickets to mates, etc. But basically, you're forced to go. So obviously, as the Black Scarf decision that they would like to bring forward, that certainly fits into that. But does that then mean that the Champions League games then have a much lower attendance?
Yeah, it's one of those things you definitely need to be careful of, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think about the season ticket light, Chris, the idea?
I like the idea. The club could do so many different things. They could have the season ticket light, or they could then say to people at the start of the season, or like I said, you purchase a credit system. I mean, me personally, I'd probably say, all right, well, as long as I'd get those credits either refunded back to me at the end of the year if we don't use them, then I'd probably pay a bit more to the club. So I'd pay, if they worked it out as £40 a ticket, I'd just pay that, and I'd get 10 credits, and then if we used 7, 8 of them, and then I got 80 quid back at the end of the year, knocked off my season ticket, I'd do it. So I don't know. I like the idea of the season ticket light, and it's about showing flexibility to fans. In an age when the cost of going to football is becoming astronomical, I think it would be nice to be able to have the opportunity to be flexible to your own situation as well. So, because people's situations change, you might not be able to afford a ticket, or you might have kids, or if your wife or your partner's just given birth to a child, and all of a sudden, you've got to start looking at your funds, then an option to do things like a season ticket light gives that flexibility to the fans. So I quite like the idea of it.
Yeah, just to pick you up on a point, actually, Chris. I know you mentioned credits, and I think it's a bit of an old. I don't know where it comes from, but it's a bit of an old saying, because it's actually we've actually prepaid for the tickets. So it's not credits, because I think that was a term that a lot of us used years gone by. But it's actually, we have paid for seven games. Unfortunately, it's just the 7 that turn up that we have to. I say have to, but it's the 7 that we go to. It's the 7 games that we obviously we get through to in all the competitions. But obviously with the League Cup games, it's not included on the season ticket. We have first refusal. Well, obviously that's a much sensible level. That's like £10 and £20 tickets, for lower and upper tier. That makes perfect sense. It's really quite easy to understand. Lower tier £10, upper tier 20 quid, regardless where you're sitting.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think that's one of the areas that we're all lower tier, so we should count ourselves lucky actually in terms of Bayern Munich, because some of the upper tier it's going to be 100, 120 quid a ticket, isn't it?
Yeah.
If that was the case, I mean, if there was a need to pay for it up front, obviously we were joking beforehand, before we started the pod. If there was a case where they would be saying pay it up front, I mean, as you and I were talking at work, Steve, earlier on in the week, I just can't. I've actually worked out how much I'm spending by turning up early, going to the tolly, having a few drinks, getting a programme, going into the stadium, my travel backwards and forwards. I'm spending, once you factored in the fact I've already paid for a season ticket, I'm spending £100 a game. And I'm saving up for a house at the moment, and I can't afford that. So if the club, I'm going to go to the Bayern Munich game if it's rolled into next year's costs. But if the club were asking me to pay up front, I would actually be saying, I'm really sorry, I can't afford to go. So, God, I can't be spending 150, 200 quid on a day at the Arsenal. I just can't afford it. So anyway, I guess we should probably not be complaining too much, because at least we're getting through these competitions, eh?
Yeah, it was
Starting
a
on
sad state of
Friday.
affairs, I suppose, because a lot of people were calling for an away game, which you can completely understand, but it's unfortunate, isn't it? But yeah, so Liverpool, what do you guys think about the draw? How about you, Ben?
It's brilliant, I think. It's fantastic. It's obviously, apart from everything you've just said about the tickets and the pricing, etc., but looking at the game as an isolated issue, I think it's a fantastic draw, and that's what you want to play. You want to play against these big teams, and it's all about the big day out, isn't it?
Yeah, and thankfully, if we get through, there'll be when we get through, there'll be two big teams out as well, because we've got the
exactly,
Chavsky and the Manchester City game as well.
Yeah.
Chris, you're a bit unsure about Liverpool, aren't you? I think you're a bit more cautious about them, aren't you, than a lot of people?
Yeah, because they always seem to. Do you remember when we clearly have had a better team than them over the years, and over the last sort of 6-7 years? But even when we were playing them in Champions League games, I remember that game where Theo scored that wonder goal, but we ended up going out, and that was at Anfield. They've always, apart from '89, it just feels like they've seemed to have at times had the hoodoo over us. If you look at the schedule as well, we're going to play Liverpool away on the Saturday, I think it is, Saturday lunchtime kickoff in 2 weeks' time. Then we play Manchester United at home on the Wednesday, and then we're going to either play on the Saturday or the Sunday. We'll be playing Liverpool at home in the Cup. We then play Bayern Munich the following Wednesday. We've then got, I think it's Tottenham away.
It's all in the space.
We've got Man City at home.
Days.
Yeah, and then we've got Man City at home, and then we've got Everton away. So this has turned into an absolute nightmare. We could really have done without a big tie like that. I mean, I know it sounds a bit crazy, because if we knock them out, then it's one hurdle that we've overcome. But personally, it feels like it's just another big game. And have we got enough in the tank to win all of these big games? I don't know. What do you guys reckon?
You've missed out. I think you've missed out a set of fixtures. Actually, you're talking about after the Bayern Munich home game.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the Tottenham game is Sunderland, isn't it? We play Sunderland.
Yeah, we've got Sunderland at home. Then we've got Stoke away.
Yeah.
There could be an FA Cup quarter final after that, and then Swansea at home. Then Bayern Munich away, and then Tottenham away.
Yeah,
that's in that run of really difficult fixtures in March.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're quite right. But there's now two.
That's right.
It's almost like a continuous. We've got mid-Feb, early to mid-Feb. It's now a continuous run of even tougher games, thanks to the FA Cup, and then we've got a really tough run in March as well. And you just know if we manage to get through against Liverpool, we'll end up playing Man City at the Etihad. You just know it, don't you? Next round. But
isn't it?
We're getting there.
Oh,
so, at least we got through. Hey Ben.
Yes, no, we did. But isn't it the most realistic thing that we're going to win? Just to throw that out there.
I'm confident.
Shouldn't it be something? I was interested that Chris, when we met Dave Seeger in the pub on Friday night, and he was talking about how he wasn't happy about the lineups that he'd picked for the previous FA Cup years. But surely hasn't it got to a point where we should be going full guns in this competition just to win something?
But we're top of the league, and do you not think that we should be trying to get every single point that we possibly can in the league? And
yes. I think we're at a point where we play our strongest team in every game till it combusts. Just literally go for it till they all their knees explode like Diaby's. I think we should get to the point where we should be just going for it, because it's that worry of it all sort of capitulating. Do you know what I mean? That you sort of lose to Bayern, or we get drubbed by Bayern. We lose to Liverpool in the FA Cup. And who's the next fixture? Is it Liverpool again? Let's be horrific and say they beat us twice. I know that's very doom and gloom, but then things look a bit murky, don't they? And if you've sort of rested players in the FA Cup, I don't know, I'm just putting a morbid look on a thing.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, no, I think it's a question I posed out on Twitter actually. Maybe I should ask it to you guys. What do you prioritise in terms of the big three, in terms of like competitions?
Steve, you go first.
Always the league first for me.
Yeah.
In terms of the other two, I don't know. It's very difficult. I'd probably say the FA Cup's going to be easier to win.
I think that's the point. Yeah,
but I can't see him resting anyone against Bayern Munich because that could get quite ugly. So I think we'd have to put everyone out against Bayern Munich. Yeah, we've beaten before. Let's go and do it again.
Yeah, I'm not actually so worried about Liverpool. They've just got a rare thing called a Suarez. I don't know if you've heard of one, but I think we will take them twice.
I think we will. I think if you look at their midfield as well.
Yeah, they've got Lucas out.
Midfield, it's like...
Yeah, I'm not worried about Liverpool at all. I think we've got enough to beat them twice.
And even Suarez, actually, I know he scored loads of goals, but if you look at his against the big teams, he hasn't actually scored that many, has he?
No.
He'll be cup tied anyway. We'd have signed him. I joke.
Yeah.
How about you, Chris? What about your priorities?
League, like exactly the same as you, Steve. I think League, FA Cup, Champions League, personally, because I can't see us overtaking. I can't see us turning over Bayern Munich. I wish I can. I just really hope that's not the case. But it's funny. We had a few years of playing Barcelona back to back, and yet all of a sudden, Barcelona don't seem as much of a threat, do they?
Yeah.
So I'd rather be playing Barcelona than playing Bayern Munich, but there you go. We'll see how Manchester City get on against them. So,
yeah.
How about you, Ben?
Sorry, Steve?
Your priorities?
The position we're in, I'd have to say League first, but the dreamer in me says Champions League. There'd be something really just about knocking them out and then just going on, and I don't know. I'm just being really, really silly, but. League. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds silly, Michael. There'd be something about winning that would be obviously the league. I think should always be your number one priority, but something that we haven't done, and I think Arsenal is just desperate to win that.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that one actually. But as the other side of me thinks about, as Chris and Steve have mentioned, that I just can't see us. Well, I hope to see it in my lifetime, but I just can't see us winning the Champions League. So yes, I'll put it as a high priority, but unfortunately, if I'm being realistic, I think it's the FA Cup. So we have got that run of Man United.
I agree with you. Yeah.
So we've got Liverpool, then Man United in the league, then the FA Cup, and then the first game of the Champions League. So it's we've got 3 games literally in a row of of all 3 competitions. So it's going to be interesting.
That was that moment where every single one of us thought someone else is going to say something now, surely.
So, should we talk about the Coventry game then?
Go for it.
So, you, Ben and Chris, you were both there. Me and Michael missed it. You two start then, Ben. How did you find the game?
It was fantastic. We were talking about the pod about the social aspect of the game, and it was one of the best games I've been to because meeting new people and sort of spending some time with Chris, it was brilliant. But that's by the by. But the game itself was just a professional job, wasn't it? The last sort of few fixtures, we've allowed games similar that should have been dead and buried to become sort of unnecessarily nervy. The scoreline was pleasing. It was great to see us go through without any major worries, really. But Arsenal, sent out the message from the beginning, didn't he? Sort of picking Ozil, Podolski. He meant business. I think he knows and realises what it means to get through to the cup competitions, and we did it with ease, and it was fantastic to see some of the football. The goals were very good. Sort of at the time, couldn't really take it in because me and Chris were too busy jumping on each other. But when you go and see the highlights, there was some excellent sort of movement and passing and touches. But yeah, it was a brilliant game, and roll on Liverpool.
I think you're talking about that first goal. Sorry, talking about that first goal where Ozil's put Podolski through, and you just expect him to smash it, don't you? and he's just gone past the goalie and nipped it in. How did you find it, Chris?
I thought it was as most comfortable game as you're going to see for an FA Cup fourth round tie. I think Coventry knew that they were beaten as soon as we announced our team lineup, and we never really got out of third gear. I mean, the fact that people were all having a laugh and a joke and getting their iPhones out with the lights on as soon as we had a bit of a dulling of lights, and then from our little corner there erupted a ripple of spend some effing money, which everyone sort of took in good humour. But it just felt like one of those games. It was almost like a testimonial or a pre-season match. We knew that we had the quality to put them to the sword. I think it helped that Podolski scored quite early on, and he was very clinical again, and it was interesting to see him just ghost in at the back post and nod one in. So he's going to be really important in the run up to the end of the season, and I just hope that there was some spurious rumours on Sky Sports that they seem to think that crazy shouty Jim White seems to think that there's going to be a deal for Draxler in the offing over the next few days, and there's also then rumours. You hear rumours of people saying, well, they'll probably swap Podolski, but Podolski is too important to do that, and I would just think surely I don't think he would do that. He wouldn't do that kind of swap because Podolski you get such a clinical finisher. Why would you swap that for potential, albeit an amazing potential by the sound of it? You just wouldn't do it. And I think Podolski's going to have a lot to say in the next 3-4 months.
I think on that, I think the good news is that Wenger has said before about if we can get the extra 10% out of Podolski, he sees him as world class. I think that's one plus in the fact that I don't think that he'll swap in. The other one is Cologne, where Podolski came from before. He's got a tattoo, hasn't he? And apparently Schalke are their biggest, or their kind of local rivals, from what I've seen. So it would be like, I don't know, an Arsenal fan taking over and managing Spurs, and that's obviously never going to happen.
No, that would just be absolutely embarrassing.
So thankfully, I don't think that will happen. I agree with you completely, Chris. I really hope, I'd love to get Draxler in, definitely. But not at the expense of somebody who's a proven goal scorer like Podolski.
No, just to butt in, we saw against Coventry, playing wide, he's currently our biggest goal threat. Playing centrally, he isn't. And without Theo, we don't have such a goal threat. So I think he has to stay. The end. The end. Michael?
Are we talking about Draxler or are we talking about Coventry?
Go Coventry.
Go Coventry.
Okay. I had to watch it on a stream at home. So, unfortunately, my wife was ill, so absolutely gutted not to get to the pub. I was actually more interested about going to the pub than the actual game. I think it was the whole social aspect that I was really downbeat. I think especially after looking forward to it for a good couple of weeks, I kind of built myself up to go in and stuff. Unfortunately, my wife was ill and still is, unfortunately. But So what I saw of the game, right from the off, I was actually pleasantly surprised even that the team was strong. It really was a strong team. But it's great that it is strong and it is that way. So Jack and Santi, Ozil, zipping the passes around in the first 5 minutes, and you could just tell it was one of those games you can tell in the opening 5 to 10 minutes how the game's going to pan out, and you could just see that it was Coventry. Hats off to them, but unfortunately they parked the bus for the best part of maybe 20 minutes, and I think we'd scored by then. After they scored, Coventry then actually came out and they had that. I think his name's Baker, had that rapier of a shot that. Fabianski tipped over. I think he ran something like 50 yards to take that shot, but no, they started to come out a little bit more. But I think we then turned the screws and put them to the sword, to coin a cliche. But no, it was a good game. It was a very professional job. But we just looked up for it, and I think that's a nice, surprising message, and it's a good message to put out. Because some years we've just then you could say that Wenger's not taking it, too seriously, but that was a serious team.
I think that was the most promising thing, wasn't it? As you said, Michael, that we were up for it, and it was nice to see the hunger in all the players and the there was a part where Jack burst into the box, and I'm not sure who was on the left, but he didn't lay it off and shanked it, and they just went mad at each other, and Jack was sort of trying to apologise, but it was just nice to see that sort of fight in them.
Yeah.
Refreshing.
What's your comments on the Podolski situation, Michael?
I think I actually wrote down. I can't recall if you actually just mentioned it, but Schalke's basically a rival in terms of where he was brought up and the teams that he's played with before. Is that right? Is that what you? Yeah. No, I'd read something about that. So I'll be very surprised if he does go. There's rumours about whether or not Vermaelen may be put in some kind of exchange deal as well, but I can't see him going because there's talk about Wenger wants to keep him at the club. We're talking about Vermaelen now. I can't see Podolski going. I'm not the greatest fan of Podolski, in all honesty. I don't see him as a striker. I see him as a wide player. But he's not that industrious. But yeah, he does score a load of goals. That's you can't take that away from him. And he's got an absolute shot on him as well. If you think back to the game we just played before that, was it Fulham? I think he had a shot blocked and then the shot that cannoned off the post.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's still coming back from injury, so I think hopefully there's more to come of him. But I don't want to lose him. I love him as a character, as a player. I'm not overly that bothered by him. In honesty, I think we have better players in Theo and obviously we've got like Rosicki, Ozil, and they can all play out wide. I know it's not their main position, but I think we have better players in that position. So I'm not overly bothered, but I'd love him to stay.
I might have to bleep that out. I've got Podolski on my shirt.
Oh, sorry.
Did you keep the receipt?
Yeah.
No, that's why I was generally gutted. I kind of gave my ticket to Luke, who sits next to me. So he took someone else along because when it was originally on the Saturday, I couldn't actually make the Saturday, funnily enough. So when it's moved to the Friday, it was kind of like, I've already given my ticket up. And then, it ends up a real kind of a good game to go to in terms of Podolski scoring 2 goals, who I am a fan of, even before he joined us. And the whole phone situation, like you said, Chris, that looked a good laugh. And I saw actually today, I think it was Darren Arsenal 1, he posted a video of the Coventry fans singing Twist and Shout.
Yeah.
What?
That looks well fun. I think we should steal that and do it.
Why?
I haven't seen the video, but I've seen the tweet.
They're basically where you buy food and drink. They're in the corridor, basically, Chris, and they're singing like a football chant, basically, but it's Twist and Shout, and they're going crazy. And I just wanted to be there.
Maybe they've just gone mad. They've finally gone mad because they have to travel for half an hour just to get to their home games, which I always find slightly humorous when I hear stories. I mean, it's not nice, and you should show solidarity to fans when their home stadium has been taken away. But complaining, the one bit that I'm kind of like that doesn't sit right with me is complaining that you've got to drive for half an hour when I get a tube which takes me an hour to get to the Arsenal. So I'm a bit like, I appreciate the fact that you're having to go to Northampton to play your home games, and that's not right. And support the whole footballing community supports what you want, and that's why we applauded them on whatever it was, the 16th minute, or in the 35th minute, or the 60th minute. But it takes me an hour. Half an hour is. I'd bite your hand off for a half an hour journey to get to the Arsenal.
It's not about you, Chris.
Yes, it is.
Go and clean your teeth.
Michael, what are your thoughts on Draxler?
One last bit on Podolski, actually, before we move on to Draxler. I was just thinking whilst we were just talking, I don't know if, and maybe this is actually in defence of him, actually, we may have not actually seen the real Podolski. But I think my doubt is the fact that the team presses high and he's not exactly industrious. He tries his best. He's not like the others, like your Rosicki's and your Giroud. They're always in the defenders' faces, and then sometimes you think that Podolski could be a bit more in your face, and I think he kind of paces himself through a 90 minutes. But in saying that, even last year he was still carrying that ankle injury. So I wonder if he's now over that, and then we may see an even better Podolski. So so you can keep that on your shirt. Draxler, there just seems to be a lot of smoke regarding this, and as I say, there's no smoke without fire. I think a deal is. Obviously, there's so much you can read, and I'm now starting not to understand whether or not he's coming or going. But I think a deal is going to happen. I think the sticking point is whether or not it's going to be in the summer or in the next couple of days. But the way in which the reports seem to be coming out, it doesn't seem to be much from Arsenal. I know obviously Wenger denied it, but with Wenger, you really have to read between the lines between his comments. So I think he said, we're not looking at getting a wide player. But he didn't obviously rule out getting a striker. And there is obviously this talk about putting Draxler in as a... they talked about either the new Henry or the new... the Dutch... we won't say his name, but... but there could be the talk that he could be more of a central player. So, yes, he's denied it in one respect, but if he's going to use him as a project, then he could actually be still a striker, which I think is what's going to end up happening. So, I don't know. I think I've seen a message that a German manager, Joachim Low, he wants him to move before the World Cup. So it's all done and dusted, and he's not got it hanging over his head. Whether or not that comment's true or not, or someone just made that up. At all, I don't know. There's a lot of smoke, and there seems to be a lot of smoke from Germany as well. Even the Schalke manager, Hyde, I think his name is, he said something along the lines of, he tried to deny it actually, but he denied it in a way that, are we after Ronaldo? I can't deny that. So he's not categorically denied it, but it just seems to be a lot of smoke regarding this, and I think something is going to happen. I think it's just a case of when.
I hope so. The worry is, I think you've said this before, Chris, is the Hazard situation.
Yeah.
Where it was a player that we've been looking at and been touted with for a long time, and then suddenly another club just come in and do it rather than beating around the bush kind of thing.
Yep, that's exactly it, isn't it? So,
I've just found the comments from the Schalke manager. Horst Hyde is his name. He said, "I can't rule out."
Horse Hyde.
Horse Hyde.
Yeah, Horst Hyde. Horst. Horst.
Rolling, Horse Hyde.
Oh, maybe we should get him as manager now. We can just do that.
So what were his comments, Michael?
His comments were, "I can't rule out that we'll sign Cristiano Ronaldo." No, when asked about the Julian Draxler transfer.
I think, hasn't he said something along the lines of, I think he should leave it a season or something before leaving, and he needs to build his character. But like you say, the fact that he's even talking about it just adds smoke, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why you wouldn't need to say something like that if something wasn't happening.
Yeah. And the rumours are that he now wants to go.
Yeah.
So whether or not it is something, yeah. And especially with our German contingent, why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
No,
Fingers
we've
crossed
certainly
for that
got
one.
the interest there. We've got the interest
it's
there.
strange, isn't it? Because it's hard to know what to believe, because everything's sort of swirling around. The papers seem certain. I know it's the British papers, that's ridiculous, but they seem certain that we are at least in Germany trying to get something done. Perhaps now, perhaps this summer. Whether it will happen or not, I have no idea. But he's magnificent. Like his poise, the way he strikes the ball, that comparison to Van Persie. I apologise for mentioning his name, but the comparison isn't so far-fetched. I saw a lot of people on Twitter almost getting upset about it. But he's magnificent. If we could have another player as good as him, just less pissy, it would be brilliant. And I don't see. But my issue is that Schalke are 2 points off third. So obviously they'd get Champions League football if they got into third and it finished. But so the revenue would be, surely they would get the revenue from the Champions League, and then it would turn into a bidding war. So they would get even more money. So unless Draxler has said, "Can I go?" and they're just trying to squeeze out sort of 3-4 million.
Yeah.
Because they signed Sydney Sam, who's coming in the summer. So Draxler has been playing out on the left when he has played, and they brought Kevin Prince Boateng to play central. There was talk of Holtby. That doesn't really add up where they would all play.
Yeah.
So I think it's just down to Arsene being Arsene and just trying to get a bargain out of it.
I think we're coming towards the end now, so I'll ask you your closing comments in a sec. But before we do that, I think everyone's kind of like keen to get somebody in. It's a big lift for the club when somebody comes in, and it's kind of we're in the situation now. I think somebody said earlier on Twitter, it's kind of go hard or go home kind of thing. How would you feel if we signed Draxler but loaned him back for the rest of the season? How would you feel, Michael?
Yeah, that's not a problem. I think our main priority is a striker. If you actually remember back to the summer, Bentner was off to Palace.
Yeah.
But was only pulled back into the club because we couldn't get Barr on loan from Chelsea because Mourinho pulled that deal. So you have to remember, obviously, that if Bentner was going, he's not necessarily wanted, or especially in Wenger's eyes, he's not wanted as a striker. So therefore, we really only still have Giroud.
Yeah.
So we need to look at someone. I think we should be looking above. I love Giroud to bits, but I think we need to be looking beyond Giroud in terms of a player. I'd like to see someone someone different, basically. Not a tall striker that can hold up the ball. But the problem is we're not going to get necessarily someone in January. That's the difficulty. So if we can get someone maybe on loan, because I know there's been talk of is it Morata from Real Madrid?
Yeah, that won't happen.
Yeah, that's from what I've heard as well. That's unlikely as well.
Interesting you say that though, but he recently had an argument with Ancelotti. I'll tweet you a little article later so you can see the details. Yeah, so I doubt it. I'm with you. I doubt it. I wouldn't say back on from the little bits and pieces that I've read, but I wouldn't say no in such a tone.
But no, I just think we need a striker. I think that's where our priority is. What happens if Giroud becomes injured for several weeks? We're left with Bentner for the rest of the season,
and he would die against
that's a scary thought.
Coventry.
A chilling thought.
Chilling.
Yeah. How about you, Chris? Buying Draxler but loaning him back?
I don't see the point in that. I can understand why, but I don't see the point in that. If we're trying to buy players to win us the league, well, how are they going to win us the league if they're still in Germany? So I can understand what you're saying, and if it stops him going to a Real Madrid or something, if he has an amazing World Cup, then brilliant. But yeah, we need players now. So are we going to talk about Southampton before we wrap up?
Well, it's going to go on for longer.
Oh, shut up.
No, I think just closing off that Draxler situation. I'm not saying that's a good idea. That's what I want. If we sign him, I want him now. But it'd be interesting to just to kind of get the thought underneath that, because it is one of those situations. You say at least he'd be ours, but it wouldn't really do anything now.
I'd want him. I'd want him now. I want him now because Huntelaar's just come back for Schalke. I'm just trying to say silly things to make it happen. Huntelaar's back, so the three in midfield, they could have Boateng, Farfan and Meyer. They have players.
They don't need him. We have him.
They don't need him. Can we please have him, Schalke?
Email Horsehide, Ben.
Horsehide. Yeah. Hashtag Horsehide.
Go on then, Chris. What do you want to say about Southampton?
I hope we win.
How do you feel? So, with the current state that they're in, with what's all going on with their sort of ownership and stuff, do you think that's going to affect them on the pitch at all, or do you think that was pointless me even saying that?
Pointless you even saying that. Stricken from the record. What a load of rubbish you talk.
Fair enough. Do you think that they are going to be running out of fuel, considering their great start and the way they play? You look at similar to sort of Atletico Madrid. They play great football, but their football's based on pressing and having it large, basically. Do you think that will tire them out, hopefully in time for us?
Is Jay Rodriguez injured? I think I've read something recently about him being injured. Is that right?
That would
no,
be
I know
fantastic.
they've got They've got Danny Osvaldo that they've suspended.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
the
is it
fighter.
What's Love? Who's the?
Lovren.
Lovren,
Yeah, I think he's injured, and they've got
very
one
good.
other player injured. So they've got a few injuries. It's a game that we've got to win. Really, we need to win that, and we need to win Palace at home because when the tough fixtures start coming, we need to have some form of buffer. Spurs play against Man City on Wednesday, and if Tottenham, this sounds horrifying and a sobering thought, but if Tottenham can pick up a point, which would be quite good for us, or even beat Man City, then we need to capitalise.
And then, of course, the weekend after that, when we play Palace, Man City and Chelsea then meet each other on a Monday, I think it is, the fixture.
Oh, really?
So you're right. Yeah, we do need to capitalise in these two games.
Big time.
So if Man City draw against Tottenham and draw against Chelsea, and we win our 2 games, we've got a buffer of 5 points. Then I think
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep.
That just shows you how important this next week could be pivotal to our end of season running. How about that for food for thought?
Big time. Okay. Has anyone else got anything else to say on the Southampton, or do you want to move on to final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
Yep, final thoughts.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say before we close off, Michael?
No. No.
Chris?
Why is it that I can't sit cross-legged anymore, like when I was a kid? That was it.
Jesus wept.
Because you're old.
I was going to say, ask your mum to.
What you said about your mum?
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Bit harsh.
Maybe let's rephrase it. I think maybe Mr. Howard needs to have the birds and the bees talk. That's probably why such things may have grown.
Well, the fact that Chris had to ask, maybe things haven't grown. How about you, Ben? Any final thoughts before we close off?
No, just to echo what Chris said, really, what we've been saying the last few weeks
What about crossing legs?
Yeah, and Mrs. Howard. No, joking. Just how we have to basically win our next 2 fixtures comfortably to give us a buffer to go in for as we enter the gauntlet. We have to be ready and prepared. So, yeah, come on, up the Arsenal. We can do this.
Yeah.
Great, cool. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you for coming on, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Final thought from me: if you haven't read my blog on the captaincy situation, go and read it now. SuburbanGooners.com. Other than that, thanks for listening, and Suburban Gooners out.
Out.
Bye.
Bye.